So I recently posted in the Notion subreddit about how I'm using Notion as both a task management system and client portal for my new agency, and people really seem to like that idea, and so I just thought I'd share exactly how I'm doing it. I'm really proud of how it's all come together. This has been the culmination of about 12 years of trying to figure something like this out. Prior to starting this agency, I worked for another agency for 11 years. I was director of strategy, and I developed all of our internal systems, including task management and client portals. We started in Asana and then we moved over to ClickUp, which was great for task management, but we couldn't really do client portals there because we'd have to pay a monthly fee to get each of our clients in. And so we set up client dashboards or portals in Notion and kept doing task management in ClickUp. And this worked all right, and it really might be the best way to do it if you really don't want your clients seeing what you're doing in your task management system. But it was definitely less efficient. We had to often have the same task in both ClickUp and our client dashboard, and then keep track of which information we're sharing with the client and which information we're not. So when I was starting my own agency, I decided to be just fully transparent. It's one thing that's always bugged me about most agencies is that they're really secretive about what they're doing for their clients, and I thought, hey, why not just let our clients see all the work we're doing? And that really simplifies this whole process because I can just bring clients into our task management system. So as you'll see, this is a client dashboard, but it's also our task management system. So what I've done, like a lot of agencies that use Notion, is I've created a page for each client in my agency. So if you go to one of these pages, you'll see it has a dashboard and then a few additional pages. And I've created this little navigation menu on the side. Of course, they'll also have Notion's navigation menu, but I just thought it'd be nice to have it right here on the page. And then from their dashboard, they have this drop down that explains how to use the dashboard. I like to record just a custom video for each client. I think it's a nice personal touch, and you only have to do it once per client, so I think it's well worth the effort. And then below that, they can see all their tasks. And within this task view, I've set up different tabs for this week, this month, just tasks for them, or for me, it'll show just tasks for me, all tasks, and then completed tasks. But as you can see, this shows them both tasks that are assigned to them and tasks that are assigned to me or my team. So they get to see everything that's going on, but they also know exactly what's expected of them. It was also really important to me that clients were able to actually edit these tasks so they can open up and they can add information here. Of course they can comment, but I also wanted them to be able to add content to the page itself, to change the status, change the assignee if they wanted to give something to me, or change the due date. Now I know a lot of agencies won't want to give their clients that much control. So if you just want to let your clients comment on tasks, it's actually a bit easier to set up, but I'll show you how I did it so that they can edit that stuff without changing the view. And that's what's crucial. For all of this to work, all tasks have to live in a single database, and then they're filtered by client. So if they can edit the view, they can see other clients' tasks. And so you need to make sure that each view has an advanced filter on it and that it stays locked. So of course I can unlock it because I have edit access to the view, but they won't be able to unlock it. And then you can see within here, I have some standard filters, but then I also have this client contains this client. So they can only see their tasks. And then I hide that client column. So I'll show you exactly how I have the permissions set up to get this to work, but you might be asking, why one giant shared database for all the tasks? Why not just have a separate database for each client so you don't have to worry about accidentally showing them other clients' tasks? That's a great question. That is how I originally had this set up, and maybe it's how you want to set it up if you want to play on easy mode. But I started to realize there's a lot of cool things I could do if all tasks are in one database. So for example, I've created this all tasks view, and it contains tabs for all my tasks for this week, all tasks that are assigned to a client that are currently overdue. Now, of course, Notion's built-in My Tasks feature will do a lot of this. If you have separate databases, but you make them each a to-do list, all tasks assigned to you will show up in My Tasks. But having it set up this way with one giant shared database makes it way more customizable. For example, I have an internal credit system I'm using to keep track of how much work I've done for each client, and this lets me set up workflows and dashboards based on the credits assigned to each task. So I decided before I scale to 50 or 100 clients, I wanted to make sure everything's set up to be as scalable and flexible as possible. And to do that, all tasks really need to live in one database. So let me explain how it's set up with permissions. Each client, of course, has access to their own page, but they only have can comment access. I wanted to give them edit access. However, if you give them edit access to a page, they can change the filters on every view on that page, which means they could see the tasks from other clients. However, I found a way that they can still open up any of their own tasks and add content or change status, assignee, and due date. Now, based on how you run your agency, you might not want to give your clients that access, which makes this a bit more simple, but I'll show you how I did it. Because this page actually lives in the master tasks database, I just give them can edit content access to the database. This is an access level that you can't give on pages, it seems, but you can on databases. It allows them to edit the pages of the database without changing any of the views or filters. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, wait, doesn't that mean they can see all the tasks in the main task database? By default, yes, they would be able to. But if you see under my databases dropdown here, this page here, just named hyphen, is my main task database. So because they have can edit content access, they can see this in their side panel, which is why I named it hyphen. But what I've done is just add a filter that blocks all tasks. So they actually can't see anything in here. And then I can create my own views of the database, like I did with all tasks, and just not give them permission to see this view. Now, of course, this only matters if you want your clients to be able to edit tasks, change due dates and stuff like that. If you just want them to comment, then you just have to give them can comment access to the database. This is just what works for me. Back on the client dashboard, you can see below their tasks, we have this updates panel. This is where they can see any reports I've done for them or any news that I think is important for them to be aware of. Again, this was originally a separate database for each client, but I decided to combine it into one master database because I realized there's some cool stuff I could do. So here's the master database. The way it's set up now, I can add a new update specifically for one client, or I can tag it with all clients or specific categories of clients, and then the update will show up in all of those clients' pages. So like recently, Google took away the ability for schools to get reviews on their Google Business Profile. That's an important update for all my microschools to know about. So I can just make one update, tag it with microschools, and it automatically shows up in the dashboard of all my microschool clients. I work with a lot of microschools. Now, unlike tasks, these updates aren't for clients to interact with, they're just for viewing. So for example, if I do a report for a client, it'll be listed here, but then I'll also give them a task to review the report and approve any projects that I'm proposing. Permission-wise though, they only need view access to the updates database because they're not going to be editing any of the updates. And then outside of the main dashboard, I also have this assets and references page. This is just for anything that we're regularly referring to. The client can see this to make sure it's all accurate or provide any updates on their assets. And then I also have this guides page, which is just a view into my main guides database. You can see most of these are not yet created, but these are SOPs either for my team or for the clients, and they're automatically linked to tasks through templates. So let me show you how I have the templates set up. Over here, you can see I have a templates dropdown with task templates and task list templates. So task templates is a database where each row is one template that I frequently use. This database is separate from the main task database. And then whenever I'm going to do one of these tasks for a client, I can just duplicate that task, move it into the main task database, and assign the client to the respective client. And then also have task list templates. So these are full list of templates. For example, my small business task templates. Whenever I get a new small business client, I duplicate this entire list. I just do that from over here, click duplicate with content. I then move all of those tasks into the main task database and set the client to my new client. I also have templates of each dashboard. So for example, for small business clients, I just duplicate this dashboard right here. I change the permissions, I change the filters on both their views, and then I duplicate any of the task templates relevant to that client. But then as you can see, within each task that I've created a template for, I've linked a guide. I haven't created many of these guides yet, but I've linked them so that as soon as I do create them, they're already linked to the respective task. I typically hide the guide column in the client's views, but then if they open up a task, they'll be able to see a link to the respective guide right there. If it's a task that I'm assigning to the client, it'll be a guide for the client. Otherwise, it's an SOP for my team. But because I like this idea of extreme transparency, I don't care if the clients are seeing our SOPs. That might not work for you. It's just how I like to do it. The one other thing I forgot to mention is I have a client's dashboard, and this is how I assign each task to a specific client. The main task list has a relation column that has a one-way connection to this client's dashboard. And then I can also keep the most relevant information about each client in here. So I hope that was helpful to see how I have this set up. I'm wondering what I might be missing or what improvements I could make on this. If you have any questions or see any ways I could be doing things better, please leave a comment below. Thanks.